I still don't know whether I can come, this to your conference or not. I am fingers crossed something is just going to like magically happen to where I can
Right.
go, but I don't
I'm
think I can go.
We'll
I'm
see.
really needed through the end of the year right here. Huh?
Okay. We'll see. Whether you come or not, it'll be perfect, exactly as is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be, I just really want to be there. I appreciated everything so much.
Yeah.
You know,
So good morning, everybody. Today we are excited to talk to Renee King-Sonnen. This is the beginning of our hospice care section of the system transformation talk. And so when we talk about hospice care, it's really about helping people transition out of the old into the new. And for each of the 7 core shifts that we talk about, there has to be hospice care done. Because for each of the 7 core shifts, people have been working in the old who are going to have to transition to the new way of doing things. And I met Renee in Texas last year. She invited me to come and give a talk. And it was amazing. It was love at first sight. It was incredible. She's the first person who gave me a pinky promise and said, I help you keep your promise to your granddaughter. And so it's been amazing to know her, and her story is incredible, and what she's doing with the animal agriculture industry and helping them transition out of animal agriculture into doing more productive things with plant-based agriculture is, to me, it's like a model for all hospice care, how things should be done, so that people feel like they're being taken care of as they move from the old to the new. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, Renee, to this interview. And for those who don't know your story, please tell us how you got into this. Even though it's been on ABC, it's been on all national news media, but it's good to hear from you once again.
oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored, completely humbled to be here with you. It was love at first sight, and I really did love the pinky promise. When you said that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that needs to go viral." The pinky promise, and I hope it does. But as far as my story goes, in a nutshell, I'm a Texas girl, married a Texas rancher, and fell in love with the cows. You know, quite by accident. It wasn't something I planned on doing because we're conditioned by so many forces to not see the cows as, or any livestock, if you will, as sentient. We're conditioned to just see them as food, not to have any inclination to understand them. And so when I started feeding Rowdy Girl as a baby, I began to have all this joy, this overwhelming joy of being with this little baby calf that depended on me. And she was a conduit for me to see the rest of the herd. I began to feel as if she was sending me messages, and I thought I was, and I wasn't taking any acid, I promise. But I really felt like I was getting messages from a cow,
Right.
and I would finish feeding Rowdy Girl, and I would just be so illuminated, and I'd have to go back to being a rancher's wife. And so I went back and forth in this very uncommon uh, place for several years before I went vegan. And Rowdy Girl was my vegan advocate. Tommy is now 100% vegan. And together we are, creating, Rowdy Girl Sanctuary into the future in Welder, Texas now. And we're also, of course, pioneering the Rancher Advocacy Program, which is really phenomenal and just a gift to me.
Right. So did you name her Rowdy Girl? when you first
Mhm.
got her as a baby to take care of her? Did you name her first?
She was her that's what I named her because she was indeed very rowdy. She was
Mm.
I had two calves. It was Rowdy Girl and Bobo.
Mm.
And Rowdy Girl was just a bouncing. She was always kicking. She was always up and down, just. And I just said, she's so rowdy. So I said, you're just a little rowdy girl. And so that's what happened. She became Rowdy Girl. And a
Mm.
lot of people think Rowdy Girl is me, which I think I'm pretty rowdy too. But the real Rowdy Girl was a cow.
Yeah, I mean, was it the fact that you named her that made you see her as a being? What do you think switched in your mind?
Yeah, you know what? It never occurred to me not to name them.
Mm.
Because I wasn't a rancher, when I married Tommy. I was just a Texas girl that went to rodeos, barbecue cook-offs, chili cook-offs. I was that kind of Texas girl. And when I married Tommy, I always loved animals. So when
Mm.
he presented me with the opportunity to take care of these two calves, of course I'm going to name them, right? I
Mm.
didn't. And Tommy said, Renee, you really better not name those cows.
Right.
And I was like, why not? He said, well, you just better not name them cows. And
Mm.
so, yeah, naming them definitely caused me to see them. But of course, none of the other cows had names out there except for Tommy would call them by their tags. So if it was
Mm.
92 or 104, or maybe there was a spot or something, a blemish or a brand or something on their hide, he would call them out by their numbers.
Mm. Very interesting. You know how our mind shifts. It's such a simple twist like that. And I mean, your story is so incredible because uh, you literally went from someone who was part of this industry into someone at the exact opposite end who is taking care of the animals, running a sanctuary. And
Yeah.
so that's what inspires people, about your story. Because that is the transition that's going through the entire, going from death and cruelty to animals to love and kindness for animals. That transition, you sort of exemplify that, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so how long has it been for Rowdy Girl Sanctuary now?
Well, I went vegan October 31st of 2014. So I
Okay,
celebrate my 5-year vegan anniversary this month.
right.
And our nonprofit, Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, the birthday is February 20th, 2015. So there
Ah,
wasn't very much time passed.
mm,
November, December, January, February, only 4 months after I went vegan, we were a registered nonprofit.
wow, that is incredible.
The
Yeah.
reason why it happened like that is because we applied on February 20th. I applied on February 20th. That's when the government got my papers.
Hmm.
And Drew Alexis, who is on our board and an attorney that used to work for Farm Sanctuary, he was very, very smart about all this paperwork and just told me exactly what to do. I followed the directions. And even though, so when we finally got the notice in May or June that we were accepted as a nonprofit, they retroactive, they made the retroactive date to the
Right,
date they got it in their system.
in their system. Yeah. So that started the transition, but how did you switch from this routine of birthing animals and then taking them to the slaughterhouse or to the sale barn to now having to take care of the animals as they grow, which is a different mindset and also a different motivation, right?
It's a different mindset altogether. For the several years I was playing the part of a rancher's wife.
Mhm.
It was all about taking the calves to the sale barn. Any cows or any bulls that didn't fit the model of what was productive on the ranch got sent to the sale barn. And I never ever liked it. I had a real revulsion towards it from the very beginning, when I first started witnessing the process, if you will, the
Mhm.
process of rounding up these babies and separating them from their mothers. Um, it's, to even talk about it, it makes me sick to my stomach because the process is so desensitized. you
Right.
know you care for these animals up until that moment, and then during that few days when they have to be baited, the babies have to be baited, and they're about 6 to 8 months old. They have to be baited into the trailer in order to get them to trust that it's
Mhm.
okay. And it takes a few days. So a chain is put over the trailer so only the babies can get in. The mamas and the bulls can't get in, only the babies. And then after about 3 or 4 days, when the trailer is full,
Mhm.
the trailer takes off and the mothers chase the trailer, wanting their babies, of
Oh, wow.
course. The babies burst into tears. You can see the tears, you can hear the wailing. The mothers would chase that trailer all the way up the fence line until they could no longer see the red trailer. And then there was just this utter deafening silence, and then the ensuing wailing and the moaning and the groaning for their children that lasted for days.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
And I hope in some world that I'm forgiven.
Yeah,
We're so complicit. We're so complicit to the suffering.
right.
And that's why I do everything in my human power, which is I have very limited human power. The only power I really have is the ability to let go and let power greater than me take over. But I do everything I'm capable of to be the voice for the voiceless.
Oh, you're doing an awesome job, and you have power. You're such a powerful human being. You've already done so
Oh,
much. You've already done
thank
so
you.
much. So tell us about Jennifer Barrett and the Barrett family.
Jennifer Barrett. Oh, wow. Yeah, Jennifer and Rodney are two of the most amazing human beings. They live in Wicks, Arkansas. I was introduced to them by some friends, and they were struggling in their ranch. They were about to lose the farm. Um, they had gone plant based, and Jennifer was really trying to be a plant based person. She wasn't vegan quite yet because she still
Mm.
thought she could be a chicken farmer at first and be plant based. Here she's going to be a plant based person, but she's trying to figure out, and how could she still be a chicken farmer? Because she was starting to find out all of this information about veganism, and she was struggling with the fact that they were a chicken farmer, but she didn't look at veganism at first as an ethical solution to her situation.
Mm.
Her husband, Rodney, was, having severe health problems,
Right.
ulcerative colitis, and it was life threatening. And so she began to look into plant-based food as a option to heal his gut, and lo and behold, he got lots better. But in the meantime, she started stumbling into the vegan world,
Mm.
and she was confronted with a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas, and it took her a while to completely give up the chicken farming, cattle farming, but she did. They did. And I got introduced to them last winter when they were they were not going to be able to feed the cows. The cows were going to be running out of hay, and they had right at 200 cows at the time. And to feed 200 cows in the dead of winter that are hungry, you have to have a lot of hay. 300 or 400 round bales, that much, just to, I can't remember exactly how much we bought, but I know I went there with Ryuji Chua. We dropped everything. I drove to Arkansas and I did a fundraiser for them to raise the money for their cows. And in less than 48 hours, we raised over $20,000 for the family. Wonderful. And that was the beginning of their involvement in RAP.
Right. So that was the beginning. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they were chicken farmers. They were actually, they will say this, they were indentured servants to Tyson, to Pilgrim. They were though, and of course I always say, any of these companies can talk to me anytime. I don't have any problem with any of that. But the thing is, they were a part of that system where they were kind of, it was a very tough struggle for them. They had 4 chicken houses, 20,000 square feet chicken houses, 36,000 birds per shed all the time. So over 100,000 birds every 52 days were going into the slaughter system from the Barretts. And now they have 240 cows that we've rescued and saved through RAP.
Right.
And we're turning their chicken farms into a mushroom farm.
Yeah. So before we go into details on that, can you tell our viewers what is RAP?
Well, the Rancher Advocacy Program is a result of me transitioning my husband first and foremost. First of all, the first model, if you will, to transition a rancher from being a rancher to a vegan was me called a murderer. I don't recommend that model very much. I don't call, other ranchers murderers, but I called my husband one. I did it a bunch. But Tommy was, of course, a multi-generational cattle rancher. When I went vegan, he was not happy about it. It's, being a rancher and having a vegan wife does not go together. Right. It's oil and water. Okay. and we had already been married once. This was our second marriage. And me going vegan almost caused us to get another divorce. It was that bad. So what RAP is, honestly, is, because of what happened in my own story, my husband gradually transitioned and he changed and he got on board with me as co-founder of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary to grow Rowdy Girl into, everyone's awareness. I didn't know that was going to happen. And then as a result of our story, I began to talk to other ranchers and their families, their kids, their wives, their sisters, their neighbors. It was a very organic event that happened a lot. Nobody ever heard these calls. It was just something that started happening because our story went viral.
Right.
And so one day I was asked, what kind of programming I would like to have at Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. And it just came out of my mouth that I was not only an animal advocate, but I was also a rancher's advocate, and that I would like to have a program for ranchers. And so it was just kind of born out of a need.
Right.
Yeah. And so what we do now is I launched RAP last July. It's a little over a year old, the launch. And we transition animal farmers to veganic, plant-based farming. That's what we're doing right now.
Right. How many farmers call you on an average per month, let's say?
Per month? Well, you mean just to talk?
Just to talk, just to find out, how do we make this change?
Yeah, probably 2 or 3.
Oh,
2 or 3 a month call to talk.
hmm
Um, as far as how many are in our program, there's 3
There's 3
currently
right
in our
now.
program.
Yeah. But each
Mhm.
one is unique, right? It's not like there's one size fits all. Is there?
No, no, it's very unique. We have right now, of course, the Barretts who are have been chicken farmers for 2 decades,
Mm.
and so that's that farm. They have right at 200 acres. This has been the most challenging transition. We have a lot of help through our coalition and through some philanthropy and impact investors that are helping us with this farm. And then the Starlove Ranch, which is the Shockrells. It's Holly and Davy Shockrell in Giddings, Texas.
Mhm.
They are the kind of family that I speak about all the time. They're the young generation that doesn't want to inherit the cruelty.
Right.
Davy Shockrell inherited a 6th generation cattle ranch from his father, but he didn't want to do ranching anymore.
Mm.
And so he had gone vegan and his wife. And so they're inheriting this farm that's got all these cows on it that are in the system of animal agriculture. And Holly and Davy found out about the rancher. Well, Holly found out about the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, and then she started talking to me. And they're actually our very first farmers in our Rancher Advocacy Program.
Mm.
And so they are a different kind of farmer, but they're very special because they are skipping that generation. They're stopping the cruelty,
Mm.
if you will. And so they've saved all of their cows. They're creating a vegan wedding venue, and we're going to be doing all sorts of sustainable and holistic farming on their land. Holly is very interested in learning all about holistic grazing and all sorts of, sustainability classes like that. But instead of doing that for your typical humane rancher, she's doing it as a vegan farmer, with cows
Mm.
that she's saving. So that's
How?
Holly and David.
Right. Then you said you have another one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the Traylors, Traylor. They're in Huntsville, Texas. And
Uh-huh.
they're the type of model that's a couple that's near retirement.
Mm.
She's a licensed psychotherapist. Rodney, I mean, not Rodney, but Richard. It's Richard and Cindy Traylor. Richard, uh, he has a traditional day job and has a small herd of 10 cows that he has to keep his land in agriculture. He too inherited the farm from multi generations. I think it's 6 or so as well. There in Huntsville. And, he just, what happened with them is Cindy heard about my story because she
Mm.
didn't want her husband to take their cow, Honey, to slaughter. Honey
Mhm.
was go to slaughter because she was considered useless because of a bum leg. And Cindy had really grown attached to her, called me. One thing led to the other. I couldn't take Honey, but I told her I would figure it out for her. And so we did. Honey and her daughter Ginger both went to Starlove. And
Mm.
in the meantime, when we went over to Cindy and Richard's house, this was the first time ever that my husband was with me. Ryuji was with me with a camera, and we got invited into this home and we got to do an intervention, if you will, on this family. And
Mm.
we saw Richard Traylor go from a bona fide rancher to a crying man in his living room saying this: I feel like a hypocrite. There's no way I can be an environmentalist and be a cattle rancher. And even though they're not vegan yet, they're transitioning. They are in our
Mhm.
program and they are committed to saving their herd. And we're looking at possibly on their small ranch, they have 20 acres,
Mhm.
some sort of a hemp model. We're still researching that.
Okay. So Star Love is going to be more like a sanctuary plus a vegan wedding facility and things like that. So the trailers are going to have like a hemp farm. That's incredible.
That's what we're looking.
They're looking at. And of course, the Barretts are doing mushroom farming. Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, and we're also looking at the viability of creating our own vegan product with the Barretts.
Oh, wonderful. You know, there is Love Laika meat.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I can connect you with the CEO of Love Laika. And their meat is made from wheat, barley, mushrooms, yeast, and water. That's it. 5 ingredients.
That would be amazing. I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Spell
they
that
were
for
in.
me.
So Laika is Lika, and love is Love, Love Laika.
Like a love. Okay. Yeah, I had heard of that.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
Jane told me about them.
yes, Jane knows them. Jane introduced me to Swaminathan.
Yeah, I think so. I would love to. I would love to for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this way, you
They're
can.
perfect. They're
Right, it'll be
perfect.
Perfect marriage of the two, right? So, because it is about producing food for people, and actually, if you can produce food that is higher up on the chain, you get greater revenues. If you can process it.
Yeah, and we're trying to also even cross into building facilities that are vegan certified, if you will, so that you don't have to buy your vegan products in a facility that also processes meat, eggs, and dairy.
Right.
Now we
Absolutely.
always look on our labels, and so we're looking at that as well.
Right. It's wonderful. Did you get a chance to talk to Sarah Heiligtag?
I didn't talk to Sarah. I did look at her YouTube though.
Right. So
Yeah,
because
I did watch YouTube.
So the situation, from what I recall, I was talking to her in Europe. Sarah does similar work to yours in Europe. But in Europe, it looks like the government continues subsidies even for sanctuaries. The government is paying for
that. What?
Yeah. How can we get our governments to do the same thing?
Well, we are. I'm on the board of directors for the Agricultural Fairness Alliance.
Okay.
And right now we are we've created legislation that is going to Congress. Lobbyists for Good is taking it to Congress October through December of this year. They've used our Laura Reese, Connie Spence. They've used our model as the model for the legislation that is being presented to Congress this year.
Okay.
So with that, the ask is to start directing subsidies to plant-based farming.
Right.
Not so much sanctuaries, but plant-based farming.
Yeah. Because the way subsidies are given to the animal ag industry, it's through leasing subsidies for public lands. So, but in Europe, apparently, the leasing subsidies are very similar, but there, it doesn't matter what you use the animal for. You're not required to go kill the animal to get that subsidy.
Wow. That is amazing.
That would be a very simple shift,
I didn't know
right?
that.
Yeah, that'd be a very simple shift in the way it is written. Basically, you're saying, let them keep the animal there at the same lease rate. You don't have to kill them, right? So then the only thing that Sarah has to do is
what a concept, right?
Yeah.
God, what a concept! Jeez.
Yeah, this is something that I think you should bring up before Connie and see if we can get Because that seems like a simpler thing to do.
It does. It does. I just don't know that the United States government is going to. I mean, come on, let's face it. Our government is not the. I better watch what I say. We don't shine as bright as we used to. I mean,
Right.
in my opinion, I mean, a lot of the things that we do in our government is just, I mean, I have to choke most days. So I don't know. I mean, certainly it's something we can present, but if we could get them to go help farmers transition from animal cruelty to plant-based farming, that would be a big start. But to ask our government to give us subsidies, even though we're not using the animal in food production, I mean, yeah, we can ask, but my God, I think our government they would think we had lost our ever loving mind, don't you think so?
Because that's the way it is in Europe, right? So in Europe, this is why I think she's on her 20th farm that she's transitioning because
Goodness gracious. But
because the
she's
subsidy,
transitioning to sanctuaries.
right, this transitioning to sanctuaries, and she's able to do that because the subsidies continue from the government, and only thing she has to substitute is the money they were making from selling the meat, right? So it works out to
So
maybe
how did
50,000
she, yeah, I saw that. So how does she get them the money?
for selling the meat. So that's about 40 to 50,000 euros a year that she has to figure out how to get them that. And usually, it's like what Star Love is doing, having vegan weddings
I see.
or having a bed and breakfast on your place for people to come and enjoy the
I see.
animals.
Got it.
So it's not
Got it.
that big of a shift that needs to happen for them, so that's why it
Kind
makes
of
it
like
easier.
what Rowdy Girls doing. We have events and we have, conferences and yeah, we have membership. And so we
Right,
get our money different ways, other than cattle ranching. Yeah.
right.
It's a beautiful idea. And I would definitely love to talk to her about it. I hope she comes to our RAP summit. Our summit is next year.
Next year, when is that?
It's going to be September the 16th through the
Okay.
20th, our RAP Summit. The sponsor deck was just completed yesterday. And so we're going to have that available. We already have like 3 or 4 anchor sponsors already ready to go on this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's going to be in Austin, Texas,
Hmm.
at the Weston Oaks Hotel, September 16th through the 20th. We'll have our farmers in transition there. We will have, we're looking at bringing a dairy farm in that's wanting to transition to be on a panel with us to talk about their problems. We're
Hmm.
also even looking at the possibility of an Amish farmer coming in
Uh-huh.
to talk to them also about how they can transition. And we're going to have our Evolove program. It's our activist training program
Hmm.
where we're going to certify activists on how to go into sale barns and actually talk to ranchers and farmers in the sale barn so that they can be introduced to RAP
Right,
inside a sale barn. So, yeah,
right.
we're doing that as well. AFA will be there. The Agricultural Fairness Alliance will be there. Oh, yeah, we're going to have speakers, panels, all of that.
Wonderful. If there's anything I can do, I'd be happy to help you, on that.
I would love for you to. Well, there's ways to participate. The sponsor deck is finished, so I'll let you see this so you can see
Mhm.
how you want to participate for sure.
Sounds good.
There's many ways. There's sponsor, there's vendor, there's partner. What is it, Jerry? Sponsor, vendor, partner, ally, and ally.
An ally.
Mhm.
Okay, wonderful.
So you can see all those ways as soon as we get the. I'll send that over to you this week.
Yeah, because when I was talking to Dr. Will Tuttle, we were discussing what's happening at uh, uh, for the Tool Elk. in Point
Yeah,
Reyes.
Miyoko. Yeah,
Yeah,
Miyoko's
Tulare.
raised awareness about that.
Right. Yeah, in Point Reyes. And the dairy farms that are in Point Reyes National Seashore, there are about 5,000 cows in the National
Mm-hmm.
Seashore. And um, is there a way to reach people like that and tell them, there is a way to transition out of this and help them out? Because they seem to be stuck
Yeah,
in this.
in fact, I'm talking to Miyoko about this. She's been on a couple of calls with us. She's going to be sponsoring the summit for sure. And
Mhm.
so we're absolutely talking about, how we might be able to help with this.
That's wonderful. Because that's a model. Because
Yeah,
we were discussing how that is a microcosm of what's happening at the larger level by you're killing all the wild animals, just to.
exactly.
And so if we can recover that, it can save that. It sort of gives hope to people that the larger world can
We
also be
need
saved.
to do that.
Right? We need to
We
do
need
that.
to do that. And Miyoko is so passionate about it. Yeah, when we were in her home 8 or 9 months ago, she told us all about it. And then the subsequent calls I've had with her, it's just the anxiety is just rising because
Right.
the government, I guess, they're so intent on just annihilating those elk.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to be thinking about how we can save them, not kill them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because there are 5,000 cows there, and I think there are 120 elk, and so they're complaining about the elk eating some food on the national seashore, and which because they are actually for them it's a matter of reducing their cost, right? Because they're under a lot of pressure. The dairy farmers under a lot of pressure to reduce their cost to make sure that they don't lose their market share, and so um, it's
Yeah,
desperation time in the
for
current
sure.
system. In the current system, so
For
we need to
sure.
figure out a way to get us out of that kind of thinking and get into, I mean, create this example that people can look at and say, yes, it can be done, you know?
Yes.
And to me,
Yeah.
it's a very visible project. It has already gotten a lot of publicity, and it is um, in a rich area, Marin County, and it's a beautiful seashore. It's a beautiful seashore, and there
Yeah.
are beautiful animals. The
Yeah.
Tulael.
We've got to do everything we can to restore. I talk about it all the time in our meetings with our RAP team. We've got to reclaim the land. We got to reclaim the land, rejuvenate and re-enliven the land so that Mother Nature can bring the wild animals back. And we've got to be able to give the domesticated animals like the cows and the pigs and the goats and all that are saved a place to be released to. We got to create a new sanctuary model so
Mhm.
that nature is involved in these models where there's literally thousands and thousands of acres that we are reclaiming in the in like the instruments of easements or land grants so that we can create a new way for the animals to live in like the way it should be in harmony with nature. I mean,
Right,
we have to do this. If we're going to achieve that vision of a vegan world by 2026, we have to continually be figuring out these solutions on how to reclaim the land.
right,
And in doing that, we've got to realize that as we rescue ranches from the horrors of animal agriculture, we've got to have a place for these animals to go
right.
unless we slaughter the last batch, if you will.
Mhm.
And so that too is being talked about. We as vegans, we have to have these hard conversations because what do you do with a farm that has 1,000 cows that
Mhm.
wants to transition. Where are you going to put those cows? Do you tell that farmer as a vegan, go ahead and process those cows on out and then give us a call? Do you
Mhm.
say that? Where would you put 1,000 cows right now if that call came to you? See, we have to answer these very tough questions.
Right, right. Absolutely. No, it is
Where
a
would you put 100,000?
100,000 chickens. Yeah.
Where would you put them right now if you had like a Jennifer and Rodney Barrett call that had 4 chicken sheds, which is very, very common, with 100,000 chickens in it at any given time? What if you had one of those ranchers call and say, "I want to be in your program"? Would you say to that rancher, "Well, go ahead and slaughter those 100,000 chickens and then give me a call"?
Mm. Right.
You see,
Yeah.
we got to answer these. We got to answer these questions out here. It's
Right.
easier said than done,
Right.
but we're doing it somehow.
Yeah, we're also,
we're
we've
somehow we're doing it. What?
right. We've also bred these animals so that they are sort of, you know, genetically modified, and they're kind of, in this grotesque way. We are making them put on weight so fast in the beginning that they just cannot live too long like that, you know.
We have some here though. We have chickens here that we rescued from that tragedy that happened in LaSalle, Colorado last year.
Mm.
They're
Uh-huh.
thriving here.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
wow,
big,
cool.
but they're almost a year old. I have one named Omen
Uh-huh.
that I rescued right out of a chicken plant, a great big chicken plant, in broad daylight with Ryuji. She was underneath a trailer where thousands and thousands of chickens were confined in this trailer. They were getting ready to be slaughtered. And Omen, bless her heart, was underneath the trailer, somehow gotten out or squeezed out or something. And I went underneath that big awning, and me and Ryuji rescued this chicken and drove her all the way back to Texas. She's
Mm.
still alive. She's right here on my back porch.
Good for her.
They can live.
Right. Right. Yeah, but normally chicken live for like 10 years, right? 9 to 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
have a chicken right here, Miss Kitty, right now. She's 9.5 years old, going strong.
Good for her.
I have a turkey right here in my house named Celie, and she's almost 9.
Hmm. Yeah. No, those are hard questions, and you're right. We need to start asking those questions because we are in this transition phase where we have to make decisions for the future. Um, and
Well, that is the hospice care, in my opinion. When I saw
Right.
that my category was hospice, I was like, hospice. And then I got to, talking to Jerry about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because that's how we're going to take care of these animals. Do you
Right.
take care of them by slaughtering them first? No, I don't think so.
Right.
I personally, and I've had conversations with vegans that
Mhm.
say, well, I don't see how you're going to be able to do anything with 1,000 animals. I'm like, well, we better figure it out. Can you
Right.
tell? It's kind of like the one that is like on death row, the person on death row, and the person that pulls the trigger or shoots the deadly whatever it is poison into the vein. They normally have a mask or something. I don't
Mhm.
want to be the one to tell somebody to slaughter their animals.
Right. Right. Yeah. But it's also, we also have to look at what's happening to the wild animals, right? Who are being killed for,
Exactly.
yeah, for getting more food for our domesticated animals.
It's all one big puzzle
Right.
that has to fit very carefully. We have to save domesticated livestock while
Mhm.
bringing wild animals back into the forefront as a part of our landscape, not taking them away. And
Right.
if in that way, animals will be predated, yes, but it's the natural course of evolution instead of sending them through a stale barn or slaughterhouse.
Right. But the least we could do is to stop producing new ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one of this crazy. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We have to stop breeding. We must stop. And that would be the whole course of RAP. You know, as we're thinking about these tough questions and our think tank is working to solve these problems, you know, any animals that would be put back in onto the earth would be fixed. You
Right.
know, they wouldn't just we wouldn't just you know, put 1,000 cows on back on the land without them being fixed.
We also, I mean, genetically change them from where they were, wild animals, to what they are today, okay, over a course of 10,000 years. If you look at the wolf became the chihuahua through human manipulations, right?
Wow.
So how do you get a chihuahua to go back to being a wolf? It's not going to be a wolf.
Exactly. Yeah. And I see this question up here. It says, what is the answer, Renee? What does a farmer do with hundreds of animals that desire to transition? Well, that's the question. Yeah. I'm going to ask you that question.
Right.
It's never been thought about. It's never been done. I mean, I've been thinking about it for 3 years, but I'm one person here in Texas that used to be a cattle rancher's wife. And so what do you do with those animals? Right now, we've saved 240 of them. You know, they're on the Barrett farm. The trailers, 10 cows right now. We're looking at rehoming them to a family in Florida. The Starlove group, they kept theirs. They saved theirs and fixed all of them. You know, Rowdy Girl Sanctuary fixed all of her cows. You know, we don't have any breeding cows. And so, but what are you going to do with them cows? Number one, we have to get land grants.
Right.
We have to start figuring out how to revitalize the land so that the land can take care of the animals and the animals can take care of the land in synchronicity. You bring back the wild animals, you and there's good stewards like all of us that would be taking care of that land so that it feeds the cows, the chickens, the goats, whatever is put on that land. You know, naturally worming them, naturally, you know, giving them the things they need, they know to eat.
Right.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And then slowly transitioning that land back to the wild, right? So over time, you'll have less and less cows on that land, less and less chickens on that land, but more deer on that land and more wild birds on that land.
Yeah. But
so
that's what we have to do.
That's, yeah. But as you said,
think that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you think back, because I'm watching some of the questions, and I completely agree. You know, but if you think back to the beginning of time, there was no commodification of animals. So,
right.
You know, we've got to stop commodifying animals. That needs to just stop. You know, but you can't stop in the system you're already in. One of the things you've taught me, Sailesh, more than anybody else, and I get it big time, is you don't fight the system, you create a new one. Right. And we're creating a new system, y'all. And in this system, we take back the land. There's plenty of land out here. It's just being used wrong. Right. So we, all of us, have to work together to reclaim the land, restore the land, revitalize the land, be good stewards instead of destroying the planet, destroying the earth. We have to figure out, are we in Arizona? Are we in Texas? Are we in Canada? Are we in Australia? Where are we geographically? And what does this land need to rejuvenate? What animals will be best suited here? And we need to grow those type of geographical models in the system.
Exactly. Yeah. It has to be all locally based, you know, because every local area is different from in some other local area. It's not one size fits all. It's not a monoculture anymore.
What we're doing, Sailesh, is we are creating actual models and roadmaps with the ranchers that we are transitioning, so that, 50 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, at least it'll be easier for the folks, coming,
Right.
generations ahead won't have so hard of a job of it.
Right. Yeah.
So your granddaughter will have an easier life.
My granddaughter she's got a simple job for me to do. And that's what I'm
Exactly.
focused on right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Deborah, I'll throw it open for the audience questions.
Yes. So on Facebook, there's a question: did Rowdy Girl have an ear tag?
Did Rowdy Girls never had an ear tag?
Ah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if the tag that is on your necklace had to do with Rowdy Girl.
No, I got this from a company called Dirty Snouts. Isn't that cool?
Oh, yes.
I know, I love it.
Dirty Snouts. Okay. And there is on Facebook also, and I'll second this, Renee King-Sonnen. We were wondering if you have thought about making a feature-length documentary about the farms that you are transitioning, with you all and each of the families and their stories. I think it should include a bit about health too, because that would be very motivating.
That's a great
Well,
idea.
yeah, yeah, it needs to be done. There is some things going on, like we were filming this week, at the trailers. We were filming at Star Lab. We were filming here. There is some things going on. There's a documentarian that wants to come out here and start following me around, for the next several years. But I'm very open to this. So, Sailesh, if you want to talk to me offline about how we might do that, because a lot of talk is going on about this, a lot. And it will be done somehow, some way. And we need to. Right now is the perfect time, because the mushrooms have not gone into the sheds yet. The business model, the business plan is almost finished for the Barretts, and Star Love is well on their way to doing the event, the wedding event space, but they haven't done it yet. And so, and then the trailers we're just wide open. So there is a great space for the right documentarian to come in here and really follow this. It needs to be done.
Awesome.
Right.
I think that's an excellent idea, because I can only imagine that, with the ranchers, there's probably a lot of suppression of the heartstrings going on, just because they could not see past the hurdles of that they would have to jump through to be able to sustain themselves and their families and
Yeah.
everything that they have,
Well,
in their
right.
responsibility. Yeah,
That's
and this would
exactly
help.
right. That's what's happened is rancher families have contacted me privately so that they could basically cry about the animals they send to slaughter and love. They can't do that in front of their family, in front of their peers, in front of other ranchers. And that's what's happened. That's the reason Rancher Advocacy Program was actually created, is because ranchers, families, and all would call me and have those feelings and emotions that they'd never been able to have before.
Right.
And it's because our story, me and Tommy's story, was so raw and so real, and it landed in the laps of everyday people across the country and in many parts of the world through CBS Evening News, ABC, Animal Planet, all these. It was in all the Southwest Airlines magazines in October a couple years ago, and so. When you have this story of a rancher family going vegan and saving cows, there's so many cattle ranchers that watch, the news and fly on Southwest Airlines. And so they pick it up that magazine or they watch the news and they're like, what? And then all of a sudden, what's in the back of their mind comes to the front. And here they are faced with that moral dilemma that they keep shoved in the back. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah. But you know, when if
Very
you
good.
have that documentary, it opens that doorway where they can start to see pathways forward, which is very powerful. They don't have
Right.
to stay stuck behind their walls anymore. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm very willing to do that. I think it needs to be done. Right now it's the perfect time. There is an organization doing a mini documentary right now on the farmers in transition with us right now, but it's a very much of a mini doc, if you
Mhm.
will. But we need a full scale documentary on this for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so here's a question. How can we counter the activities of the Savory Institute, who promotes the so-called, in quotes, holistic management and grassland regeneration? What is fundamentally wrong with them? And it's
That's Savoy, I think you're talking about. Savoy,
a
Savoy.
okay, it says Savory, but yes.
Yeah, it is a Savory, yeah, Savory, Savory, Alan Savory.
Okay.
I thought it was Alan Savoy, but maybe so. Okay, yeah. So anyway, him. How do you combat? Well, number one, I don't think we can fight him. I think we do what we're doing. We create this message, a totally different message. That's what Starlove in Getting Sexes is really all about. She's taken his classes.
Mhm.
She's taking a cattle ranching class right now. A vegan girl taking all these classes so she can actually take these practices that they're using in uh, regenerative ranching and all that, humane farms, if you will. And she's putting this into a sanctuary setting where her cows and her land are creating a symbiotic relationship. She's
Right.
rotating pastures for her cows. She's planting the right types of plants and herbs and all on her property so that the animals are living in harmony with it. That's what she's all about. And she is going to be speaking on all of that at the RAP Summit.
Wonderful.
She's she's taken Alan's class.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, there's a part 2 of this question for Dr. Rao. They even go to the extent of saying that it can restore climate and sequester 3.5 ppm per year. Can you speak to that?
Well, right now, about 30% of the land area of the planet is used just for grazing animals. And on that land, the amount of carbon that is stored is about 1.1 kilotons per square kilometer, or 1.1 million tons per square kilometer. Okay, the average of all land is about 15 million tons per square kilometer. It's about 15 times as much as what we are storing on grasslands. So this is why, but the average and the rest is basically in forests. So in any given land area, I mean, in geographic location, the native forest that used to be there turns out to have the most sequestration for that area. Nature is so amazing at that way, right? Nature is obviously maximizing the sequestration. So this is why if you bring back the original forest, you will sequester the most carbon. But it's true in any grassland, grasslands are so depleted of carbon that it's easy to bring back the carbon on that either by bringing back the original forest or doing holistic grazing. Holistic grazing is literally, giving more land for the animals than what we were doing before, so that you have, so they can move around, and then the vegetation has a chance to come back. So because right now our lands are all completely overgrazed, so we are sort of undergrazing them in holistic grazing. And then slowly, as our domestic animals die out, you can bring back the wild animals, on that land. So that's how you would use holistic grazing to regenerate the land. Now, the problem I have with the way Savory has been presenting it is, he's saying that you can graze that land with cows, and then you can eat the cows.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's not true, because if you take that biomass of the cows out of that land, kill them, and send them to New York City, and so someone is eating the biomass in New York City, all the nutrients are going to New York City, and it's being flushed into the ocean from there through the sewer system. So that there is nothing, you're not regenerating at that point. So that's biomass being taken out of that land and thrown away. This is why you have to replenish those nutrients. And this is how you deplete the land. This is how we depleted it in the first place. So we cannot continue doing that. It has to be keeping the animals on the land and letting them die on the land, when they're old, and not breeding new ones and then bringing back the wild animals. So there is a whole process we can go through about the transition, in which holistic grazing is a part of it, but it shouldn't be used for continuing the current system. That's where I have a problem with Alan Savory.
Thank you. So let's see, there's a comment that says, and I believe this came in when you were talking about looking for space for the animals. Some of these came in when you were talking about looking for space for the animals. What do we do with all of them? And it says that is what the cow rescue organization in Hawaii does. They're desperately looking for space, sanctuary, so that they live their lives peacefully. That is why this crazy animal agriculture must stop ASAP. And then there's a question that says, does it help or hurt to take non-vegans to a dairy processing center? It is not a farm, and show the horrifying practices.
Does it help to take non-vegans to a dairy farm?
To a dairy processing center. And it says in parentheses, it is not a farm.
Well, I mean, that's gonna, I mean, does it help? I mean, if you can get somebody to go, great. But, I don't know if it'll help or not. It just depends. I mean, I was married to Tommy for several years and never changed, even though I didn't like it. And even though I would cry, I didn't change until it was my decision. And so certainly it can't hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It could be part of the journey, Yeah.
Yeah. And then how that translates to the ranchers that you're on the planet to help in this moment, the ranchers and the animals. Yeah, I'm just thinking, bringing that question into the context of your current, what you're working with in terms of how that would translate to the ranchers and to the advocacy program. I'm not sure if that would help your efforts or hurt them.
I'm not sure of the question in that context. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just trying to bring the question that was asked into the context of the work that you're doing, and maybe there's not a question there. You already said you don't know if it would help or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, I have no clue whether that would help. Honestly, the thing is with ranchers and their families, one of the things RAP does not do is proselytize or solicit farms and ranches. Until a ranch or farmer wants to explore that change, I'm not going to. I get asked every single day by somebody, and I'm not exaggerating, every day by somebody on social media to join in on a call or a message somewhere where they're having a fight with a rancher or somebody in the dairy industry or somebody, at a sale bar, and they're wanting me to come in and basically, slap their hand and tell them this, that, and I don't do that. That's not my place. It won't change them. It will push them away. Mm-hmm. The Rancher Advocacy Program is all about advocating for ranchers, helping them. And, I am in conversations with a couple of ranches that have been introduced to me through social media, but it's, we're having some private chats and conversations, not, I never put them down.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So from that perspective, I think it would not be helpful to bring advocates to their farms. I'm sorry, activists to their farms. Okay.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Okay. So there's lots of people justify themselves to eat meat as long as the animal comes from local farms versus intensive animal agriculture. Please explain about this myth about local farms. Thank you.
Is that for me?
Can you?
Yeah, basically intensification happens because they're trying to reduce resource usage. So when we de-intensify, we are increasing our resource usage. And all those resources come at the expense of wild animals. So we are literally saying we need more land from the wild animals, and they're already dying off. So this is not something there is no humane way to continue eating animals. So
No,
I say
no
go
humane
local, go local but plant-based. So
Yes.
plant-based is number one, and then we can go local and organic. This is why I call it local, organic, vegan eating. Vegan is number one, and then as much as possible make it organic, and then as much as possible make it local.
And as much as possible, I'm going to add to this because this is, our models of transition are a veganic model because we know that organic isn't vegan. For the most part, when you're eating organic, and that's our choice. That's our only options, unless such a tiny sliver of the vegan food market is veganic. But all your organic is actually outsourced from feedlots. All the manure and stuff, the bone meal, the feathers, and all that. We got to get away from even organic to be vegan completely.
Right. Yeah, ultimately, organic should be veganic. Absolutely, I agree with you.
Should be. It should be. And I'm also not saying that you couldn't. I'm just going to go back to that question about taking a farmer to, a farm, or to a dairy farm or something. There's always going to be your exceptions to the rule. Somebody could go vegan that way. My husband went vegan with his wife calling him a murderer. Not everybody's going to respond to that. I think Kip's partner, Keegan went vegan with somebody hollering at him. That's not the most advantageous way, I don't think. Okay, but it does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen. Yeah.
It does happen. Okay, I'm going to go to a question on Facebook. It says, the city I'm in, many people don't understand what veganism is. I'm trying to find ways to let the word out. Can you suggest simple and better ways to explain it to them?
The best way is to screen a documentary.
So, to screen a documentary would be a great way to explain veganism. I'm the type of activist that asks questions, a lot of questions. I'm a question-based activist. So instead of telling people a lot of stuff, if somebody's curious about veganism, I'll just ask them questions that make them think. Like one of the questions, for instance, that I get asked all the time because we have a sanctuary and non-vegans come and they say, well, what do you do with their eggs, the chicken's eggs? That's a question that people ask me all the time. And I will just look at that person, no matter who it is, and I'll say, well, what do you do with, like a woman's periods? Do you care? It's a question, right? What do you do? And they're like, and even though it's not technically a menstrual cycle, it's the closest thing we got to it, right? And so it really makes people think, and they're like, well, I never thought of it that way. And I said, well, then the whole reason for you being here right now is for me to make you think, huh?
Right.
Well, I certainly don't know if I can eat an egg now. Well, good. See, it's like we got to have our own brand of activism. Everybody's got their own brand of activism. And my brand is really, I ask a lot of questions. I do it with humor. Not that I make fun of the animals, but I'll do stuff like that, and I'll say stuff and they'll say like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, imagine if you were asleep in your bed, just imagine for a minute, what would you do if somebody came under your covers and stole your menstrual cycle? It's like, what? Right? It's a question that makes people go, what? But it's so true. This is what happens to chickens every day. Every day, somebody is reaching out underneath them, grabbing their eggs, stealing them, and then making them have more eggs.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's just questions. I ask a lot of questions, and I put a lot of humor in my activism. I'm very serious, but I also include a lot of humor. But I think documentaries, obviously, What the Health, Cowspiracy, all the great documentaries that are being made right now, Prayer for Compassion.
Mhm.
We need to do the documentary, for RAP. I think absolutely we need to do that. It'd be something. It's amazing what those documentaries do.
Yeah.
Vegan Everyday Stories, the documentary that me and Tommy got asked to be in back in 2015 or 16. It was very early. It
Mhm.
was before he was vegan, actually.
Mhm.
That from that one documentary, I have had so many people reach out to me that went vegan because of the story I translated about Dixie Chick and how working on her legs made me realize that, I used to eat those chicken legs. And here I am now trying to fix her leg and make her stop hurting.
Mhm.
I told that story on that documentary, and I've had so many people reach out to me as a result of that. That made them go vegan. That one story.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Nice, excellent work. Okay, I'll read this question here. It says, is it a good idea to challenge a non-vegan by saying, can you milk a cow with your own hands? If so, go drink the milk.
Can you milk a cow with your own hands? If you can, go drink the milk.
I mean,
I'm afraid they would go out there and try to pull the udders off the cow because you got to do that just right to even get it to work, and I wouldn't recommend that.
yeah, I have to say one of my thought processes that came up in the time where I was defending my decision to go vegan is, number one, I didn't want to have anything to do with the industry as the way that animals come to our tables that promotes poor health and and cruelty to animals and harm to the planet and and it's like, why would you opt into something like that? And I thought, if I were meant to eat meat, if I could raise an animal and then kill it myself and eat it, then maybe I would feel like I was meant to eat meat, but there is no way that I could possibly do that. So, I know in challenging my own self with that, I was like, okay, there's no way. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye while somebody does it for me. So that was kind of my own self-talk there. So perhaps I could, in the same way with milk, why would you milk a cow when cow's milk is for baby cows? Why?
Right.
I mean, would you go out to a
Exactly.
field and say, excuse me, move over, baby cow, I want some of this? No. That's my own thoughts and
Right.
feelings.
I mean,
Yeah,
imagine,
yeah.
imagine doing that to a baby monkey or a baby dog or a puppy,
Yes,
You
or even a
say,
baby
How about a
human. You're an
panther?
adult.
How about a
baby.
panther? How about a panther or a coyote? How about we go up to the mama panther and say, "Hey, scoot over." Yeah,
I mean, most of us after a certain age, we're weaned. We don't need milk anymore, even human
Right.
beings, right? So,
Right.
exactly.
yeah, that it's just one of those things that it shows how brainwashing and how just how we can be indoctrinated into a society when and when you think about it and you just really think about it, there's so many things
Yeah.
that don't make sense about our world in general. Okay.
That's a fact.
Yes. And so, Dr. Rao, this is for you. It says, your thoughts about goshalas in India
Uh-huh.
in the general context of this talk. What are the do's and don'ts cattle ranchers in the West can learn? And you can correct the
Well,
pronunciation if I
yeah, I
mispronounce.
know, but I haven't been too familiar with what goshalas do. So, I mean, I know there are goshalas here in Arizona, and they are trying to do what I was suggesting, which is, make sure that the animals are not breeding, and therefore they try to live holistically on that land and eventually transition out to wild animals. So that's, I think, the correct model even for goshalas in India or for ranches in the West. There's no difference. It's the same principle that needs to be applied.
Yes. Okay. Now there's a question on Facebook. How do we get dairy farmers to admit that forcible, artificial, and that cows don't consent? I think they're talking about the
Insemination.
insemination. Yeah.
How do we get dairy farmers to see that?
Mm-hmm.
I
To
think
see
the
that, admit that.
more we tell the stories, the more that's why, we're really looking for a dairy farmer to come to the summit. Because the more we tell these stories, the more folks are going to be able to see that it actually can happen and that it's a bona fide way to change. I mean, the dairy farmers are hurting right now. They just need to know there's a way. Cattle ranching is hurting. I mean, all the things that I've seen show that animal agriculture is in a world of hurt. They're just trying not to project that story out there, but doesn't look real good for animal ag right now.
Right.
So if you can just create the stories where these farmers want to know, where they actually see it can be done, then I think we can have a lot better way of doing that. Easier way of it. We won't really have to talk them into it because the farmers transitioning will be doing that.
Yeah.
Inspiring them, motivating them, encouraging them.
Yeah, even the government is going around saying you just have to get bigger. So they're telling the small farmers to go away. Just get bigger, consolidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sailesh,
I even saw something. I'm so sorry.
No, you go ahead, Renee.
No, I was just going to say, I saw yesterday where the Chinese government, I think it is, they're breeding a monster pig so that they can, did you see that?
Yeah,
they're
I saw
breeding
that.
a monster pig. And so that they can make more money on the backs of animals.
Yeah, it's exactly the same, the chicken model, right? So make the animal grow as quickly as possible so you can make more money.
Wow. Sailesh, can you say a word about the storage houses that the government has for the for the dairy and cheese, milk and cheese?
Yeah, so it was an article in Vox that came out, and actually the USDA has a list of all the warehouses where they are storing processed meat and dairy, processed meat and cheese. So they buy it, so they buy all the excess from the farmers and they store it in these warehouses, and they have a 1-year shelf life, and they're all refrigerated warehouses. And when someone asks the USDA, what do you do with it after a year? They just say, we dump it in the ocean or dump it in the ground. So these animals just died for nothing. They gave their milk for nothing.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And the amount of meat and dairy we store as of July 2018 would house the US Capitol building at least 30 times over.
Wow. So to help the farmers to transition and stop producing so much would hopefully then trickle to where our tax dollars are going to house this food. I mean, the whole thing is mind-boggling, really, when you think of, the whole thing about people who are going hungry and the animals who are suffering and our tax dollars and the other ways that they could be used.
It's a system that demands that the industry grow. So the animal ag industry wants to grow. They have to grow. Otherwise they'll go bankrupt. Their stock prices will go down, etc. So they are growing their production. So even as the demand goes down, they're growing their production and they're persuading the government to buy all the excess. So that's how they get their subsidies now, right? So in fact, even the what's happening in the Amazon is a result of the same practice. So
Mhm.
the U.S. imposed tariffs on China. So China is no longer buying from the U.S., but the U.S. farmers are producing. So the U.S. government has given like $40 billion of subsidies to the farmers to buy all their excess food. Meanwhile, China is buying from Brazil. So Brazil is now burning down the Amazon to grow more food. So overall, the production of meat and dairy has increased around the planet, even though the demand may have
Right.
come down. Who knows, right? It's all being masked.
It is terrible. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's terrible. That's why we have to have, I don't know how hard or easy it's going to be, but at least we're trying to get if you go to rancheradvocacy.org, there's a timeline here. And 2020 is the summit. 2021, our first goal is to present and pass our first animal agriculture bill in support of ranchers transitioning under the Rancher Advocacy Program. Our second goal was to have 20 ranches across the United States in the RAP program. That's in 2021. And then 2022, RAP has plans of launching a global strategic platform for bringing RAP to any country in the world. That's by
Wonderful.
2022, because we have different countries, people from different countries contacting me every week. The Netherlands, Japan, Thailand, Australia, Canada, Switzerland, the UK. These countries contact me, not the country, but activists in these countries wanting to bring RAP into their respective country. And so we are doing the research so that we can franchise RAP first within your state government and then into your global governments. And so we've got to get smart to do this. And as we transition these farmers are going to want to transition. We're not causing them to have a problem. We're giving them the solution to a dying industry that is being supported by the government, not the people.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is all an illusion, and it's ending. It's going to end. But as that ends, we are emerging like that butterfly that you speak of so eloquently in all your speeches. We are in that cocoon. I love that story. We are eating away at every single thing that we can get our mouth on, so that we can become that beacon of hope for humanity. And I think that we're on the track to do that.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go to a couple of questions on Facebook. It's a follow-up about screening documentaries. And this person says, I've tried screening documentary and most of the viewers are vegans. The fact is people avoid learning the facts. One or two non-vegans who, sorry, I have to adjust my eyes, who turned up are those who work for me. They saw the documentary and felt sick and went back staying the way they are. Okay. And then there's a suggestion here that some of us could have a circle to discuss a plan on how to change that.
Yeah, I say don't worry about that, because those are this is how change happens. I use the analogy of a dam with water on the other side, and we're holding back, and then we are punching holes in that dam, a little bit at a time, and it starts coming out. Then eventually the whole dam crumbles, right? That's how we all change too. I mean, I changed that way. I was getting information, but I was ignoring it, ignoring it. Eventually it just piled up enough that I said, I can't do this anymore. And then that was it. There was no going back for me.
Yeah, beautiful. And it's like each person has their own individual dam and a different criteria for how many holes need to be poked in it or seeds planted before it breaks, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And there's a comment on Facebook, Goshala still take milk. We need to evolve and create sanctuaries. And another one that says, bring RAP to India.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, India. That's another one they want us to come to. Exactly. we got Dolly's film, Land of Ahimsa being created right now, and that's going to be a big, big part of the transitioning force on our planet. Tommy, to speak to how powerful documentaries are. Tommy watched every documentary I put in front of him. Forks Over Knives was the one that really kind of sealed the deal for Tommy because T. Colin Campbell, spoke to him about heart disease. And he really, really got that because his dad died of a heart attack at the age of 62 suddenly. And then Cowspiracy really, really woke Tommy up to the environment. Prior to that, Tommy wasn't really an environmentalist. And so, it's like those messages are indeed changing people in documentaries. But I think it is true. It's a process. It's a process depending on where people are. And, Tommy, had a real hard time watching Earthlings. I mean, he didn't want to watch that. Some
Right.
people have a real hard time watching the hard footage. They just
Right.
can't do it.
Yeah. We have many layers of programming that we've been, that we've been indoctrinated with just by living on planet
Right.
Earth at this time. And so I think it just takes time for that to melt away, or
Right.
to thin out enough where we can break through it and say, okay, like you said, like, okay, this is not holding water in my container anymore.
Right. I think the same model is true even for society as a whole.
Yes.
I mean, we are the vegans are the holes in society. we have made holes for the water, the compassion water to flow through.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, eventually at some point the whole thing is going to crumble and everyone is going to say, yeah, let's get over
You're exactly right.
Right.
You're exactly right. Too much holes in the fabric or in the boat makes it sink, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just keep poking holes. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to this question that says, Dr. Rao, could you please talk about the sacred cows in India and what it is representing, and what about the other animals?
Yeah, India has a lot of stories that are symbolic. And so when we look at the stories and we understand the message that they're trying to teach us, it's really about love for all animals. It's not just the love for the cow. It's not the sacred cow, it's a sacred animal. All animals are sacred. That's what they were trying to teach us. And so we need to, and I think that's where we are headed in a vegan world. We are here to serve the animals. We're not here to exploit them. We are here to serve them. We are part of the ecosystem, and we have to fulfill our role in the ecosystem. We have to become the climate regulator species, and we have to clean up the mess we have made in the process of creating the thermostat for the planet. So we have to take pride in what we have done, and then simultaneously get humble, become humble, that we are part of something much, much bigger, and we are serving the whole. We are not extracting from the whole. It's not that given to you, right? It's a different mindset. But we had to get into the mindset of it's given to me in order to create the thermostat, which is what we did for the last 10,000 years.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So this is why I'm so
Exactly.
grateful for my cultural upbringing, because it sort of drilled into my head that everything happens for a reason. You have to just step back and look, get bigger and bigger until you see the reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you understand you're part of something bigger, and then you will be humble, and you will do your part in the transformation.
Beautiful.
Exactly. We're all like a spoke on the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very center of all wheels is just space. Like if you have one big circle and all the spokes, there's nothing in the middle, but it's what's in the middle that makes it go. That's we have to realize we're all needed to make this machine go, to make the new model happen.
Right.
Some of us may not like the way one model looks, the way this one's doing it, the way this one's active, the activism over here, or, we can all have a reason why we don't like this, that, and the other. But we need to all agree that animal liberation and human liberation is our goal,
Right.
and we need to liberate the planet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The human earth animal liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, this question says, many Indians ask me, excuse me, many Indians ask me, what do sanctuaries do with the extra milk they have? Please debunk this myth.
Yeah, a lot of people think that we're a dairy farm. A lot of people don't even know the difference between a cattle ranch and a dairy farm. They'll come to our sanctuary and ask us, what do you do with the milk? I'm like, we don't milk our cows. And number one, the cows aren't having babies, so there is no milk. A lot of people think cows just have milk,
Right.
regardless of whether they're pregnant or not or have babies. It's just the most, I've heard people actually say, well, cows, are here to have milk. That's what they do. I'm like, no, cows are mothers and they have milk only when they have a baby. So as far as debunking that myth is concerned, I think we just need to educate more and more, especially those of us that have sanctuaries. We need to educate people on social media, on which I'm constantly doing, and in our respective education events that we have at our sanctuaries. It's education, education, education. Dolly's doing that,
Mm-hmm.
with her platform. So a lot.
Nice. Okay, and another India question, is India a vegan nation?
It will be, and India and the whole world will be vegan.
Good answer.
And I know that there is a lifeline that my granddaughter has given me. She wants it done by 2026. So I have
We're
every
all
intention
vegan.
of meeting it. Yeah.
We're
Intention
all
of working.
vegan. It's like we just forgot where we came from.
Exactly.
Because of conditioning. It's just we've all been brainwashed into this state of awareness that has nothing to do with who we really are. We are all already vegan, or I wouldn't be a vegan.
Right.
See, the only reason I'm vegan now is because I finally broke through the conditioning. If I can do it, if my husband can do it, if Jennifer and Rodney Barrett can do it, if the trailers can do it and are doing it, anyone can find their soul, that true compassion that's within them that speaks to a vegan world.
Mm.
And the
Beautiful.
more of us that do it, the more of us that talk about it, the more it will happen for everyone.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, very well said. So I think maybe this is a reiteration of that question that was just answered. Explain why Indian people drink milk.
We all either drank milk or ate some animal food or something over the last 10,000 years. Once in a while, not every day, once in a while. The way I remember growing up in India, and it was always when the mother cow had babies, that's when you also got some milk, because they were milking the baby would drink the milk, and then the human beings would go and milk the excess milk. So basically what the human beings were doing were pretending to be a baby, so that the mother thinks that the baby still needs milk, and so she produces more next time. So we interfered in the feedback between the mother and her child, and we made the baby look like a big baby, and so the mother is producing a lot of milk, and so we were taking the excess and using it for our consumption. Now, why were we doing that? I think it is because if I look back and I was reading a speech by Mahatma Gandhi, and he gave the speech in 1931, and he said he tried to go vegan several times and he failed. And you say, how can Mahatma Gandhi fail? This man he had tremendous self-control. How could he have failed? But this was 1931. You see, he went vegan for 2 years. He stopped eating animal foods for 2 years, and drinking milk for 2 years. And he fell ill. And he went to his doctor, and his doctor said, drink some milk, you'll get better. And he drank some milk, and he did get better. And he said, oh my God, I'm stuck. I have to drink milk. And he wondered what was happening there. And then I realized that we did not find out about vitamin B12 until 1947 or something like that. That's when they really isolated that vitamin as the cause of pernicious anemia. And pernicious anemia would kill you if you didn't know what it was. And people knew that they would get pernicious anemia if they didn't drink or eat any animal food. And as soon as they take a little bit of animal food, the anemia will go away. And so they thought, oh, milk is nectar. So we need to drink some milk, otherwise we are going to die, right? Because we are the only animal that routinely washes its food before eating. So we routinely wash our vegetables, routinely wash our greens, and we eat that. And so we don't get the soil in our food. Other animals don't go wash their foods routinely. They eat it directly, and they get the soil in their food. And it's only in soil that you get vitamin B12, which is necessary for getting us the micronutrient cobalt, so the mineral cobalt. Otherwise, we don't get cobalt in our food. So this is what I think Gandhi was going through as well. He probably had a vitamin B12 deficiency, and he drank some milk, and it overcame that deficiency. Then he said, oh, I have to drink milk. So he kept drinking, a little bit of goat milk every once in a while. And he continued for the rest of his life. But once we discovered vitamin B12, and then it got isolated by Dorothy Hodgkins in 1965 or something like that. She isolated that. She figured out the molecular structure of vitamin B12. And then they started making it in factories in the 70s. And then you could be vegan because you could take a supplement for the essential nutrient. We all routinely take that supplement today. Now, my granddaughter's tribe, which is in the south of Phoenix, so she belongs to this Akimel Otham tribe. And I found out that they were mostly vegan. Okay, they only grew beans, corn, and squash. And they had a ceremony in which once a month they would pray to their creator, and then they would take a little bit of soil and eat it. Now that is amazing, right? So they had a ceremony in which they got their vitamin B12. And they had figured it out, way before us, way before the scientific community figured it out. They knew empirically that by eating a little bit of soil, they get better.
And it's interesting that you say that because there's a place in Houston, it's called Farm Dirt, and they are a veganic, they produce veganic soil. And they're actually in downtown Houston on 4 city blocks. They have created a veganic business, and all your produce companies, all this come dump all their produce there. All these tree companies dump all the trees there and the shrubs, and they've got a system that they've created where they convert all of this organic fruits and vegetables into veganic dirt. And I promise you that you can eat this dirt. You can pick it up, and it smells so good you can just put it in your mouth.
Right.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You should be able to eat dirt.
Right.
Really? I mean, we all should be able to eat the dirt.
Yeah. So to me, that's the reason why we started drinking milk. I mean, it was just basically, because we were ignorant and we were just searching for things. We were doing something wrong. Some people will get sick and they say, okay, you drink a little bit of milk. It's an empirical finding. You get better. Or you eat a little bit of meat. So in the Middle East, they used to eat a little bit of meat. And so it was like a rule that, during Ramadan or Muharram, when you kill the goat and you create, these dishes, you are supposed to feed the poor first. before you eat it yourself. This way, society made sure that everybody got a little bit of meat before, at least once or twice a year. And that was a source of vitamin B12. That's my theory. I do not know if this is true or not. I'm just putting a hypothesis out there. And this is how science works. You put a hypothesis out there and then you go and test it, see if this was true or not.
Yeah. What I learned from an event with the panel of doctors that I went to just a few months back was that they said that, and I think part of this has to do with the depletion of our soil, that is not having the vitamins and nutrients that it has had, but the animals are also supplemented with vitamins. Their feed is supplemented with vitamins. They're supplemented with vitamins, and so we get our, with the question of why do vegans have to take supplements and other people get it from their food. There's that. Well, then vegan must not be a natural thing if you're not getting everything you need from your food. But the truth is, the soil is depleted, so everyone needs supplements. So you're either getting it through the supplements that are giving to the animals and you're getting it secondhand, or you're taking the supplements directly.
Yeah, because we've had 10,000 years of living in a way in which we extract nutrients from the soil and we flush it down the toilet. So it goes to the bottom of the ocean. So we have done this for so long, we have depleted the soil, obviously, right? So now we have to figure out how to replenish all that.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to questions. There was a headline around 2 years back, 92-year-old dairy plant that switched to all plant-based, launches line of minimally processed milks. Is this trend increasing in dairy plants? I believe that is referring to minimally processed non-dairy milks, because it's all plant-based. Is this a trend in dairy plants?
Well, Elmhurst Farm has done it, in New York. They're a famous example of this. They've switched from dairy to plant-based milks. And they're thriving. So it's a good model, again, to show people that you are now in the new business and now you're thriving in the new way of doing things.
Beautiful. Are any of your people, Renee, are they wanting to switch to plant-based milks by chance? Have you run across that?
Any of our people, any of our
of your rap people that contact you from the dairy farms, from the ranches, are they
most
interested?
Of our contacts from dairy farmers, they're cattle ranchers. We're talking to one person right now that's affiliated with a dairy farm that we're going to be talking to, but most of our people come to us are cattle ranchers, are chicken farmers. I really would love to transition a dairy farm. That would be a very fun project for me, and we're looking. That's what we're looking to do next.
Nice. Okay. I mean, one of the things that came up in a previous interview yesterday or day before, I think it might have been, was about, wouldn't it be wonderful if the supplements that, the subsidies that are being given to the dairy farms to help with their production of milk, that keep it so cheap for us, basically, that allow us to buy milk so cheap, cow's milk so cheap. Wouldn't that be nice if that could help with the plant-based milks, so that those aren't so expensive? And a lot of people think that these vegan alternatives are out of reach price-wise for a lot of families. That's just a thought. Okay, I'll go back to questions. Ethics aside, how can we address questions about veganism not being applicable to the developing world in terms of environmental aspect?
Well, they're more applicable, in my opinion, but because the impact of climate change and the environmental catastrophes are happening in the developing world first. And so it is true that the transition has to happen among the richer segments of society, but it's the richer segments of global society, not just the developed world. So there are rich people in India who need to do this as well, because their consumption patterns are increasing and they are contributing to the global environmental problem. Because the environment is a global issue. It's never can be compartmentalized. And the number one country that's going to be affected by climate change is probably Bangladesh. And the number two country is India. So India is going to see the effects of this sooner than all the other countries. So which means the rich people in India should be doing the transition first. And the poor people in India are already vegan. So there is no question for them. They're going to say, welcome to my world, right? When the rich people go vegan. I mean, the only reason they're producing animals is because they have to feed the rich. So this is the only way they can get cash. That's the system we have created. Whoever has the money dictates what happens in the world. And so we need to change that game, which is what we're talking about in the Vegan World Conference this year. We need to change that game. But simultaneously, in the current game also, the rich people have to become more conscious and play the new game. So it's not just about people in the developed world. It's people all over who have the choices available to them, should be making the right choices. It's about personal responsibility. This is exactly what Jasmine was talking about. When each one of us take that personal responsibility to say, I can make a difference, I can change the world, then we all take the right actions.
So many people, like my mother, for instance, whenever I'm talking to my mother, I'm going to be with her this weekend. She doesn't think she can do anything to change anything. So many people have that mindset that they don't think they can do anything. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. I go to my mother's house, there's spam in the cupboard, there's milk, there's cheese, there's bacon, there's all this stuff in her refrigerator. And, even with everything she knows about us and what we're doing, she'll eat the vegan food. If I cook for her, she loves it. But as far as her doing it, I can't change the world. I'm going, my doctor says XYZ. My doctor tells me to eat this. Renee, you do what you want to do, but I'm going to do what I've always done because there's nothing I can do to change it. That is the people that we really, need to figure out how to reach.
Well, that's apathy, right? So it's built into the system. The apathy and the greed and the selfishness is built into the system. That's the way they've kept the majority of the people doing what is normal. But for those people, what is normal can change. And once that changes, it's normal to get vegan spam or whatever it is. Your mom is going to start eating vegan spam. I don't know if that is good or bad.
Vegan spam. That's interesting. Well, you know what I had last night? I fixed Tommy vegan chorizo last night by Evil Foods. No Evil Foods. So, excuse me. No Evil Foods makes a vegan chorizo and vegan sausage, even with no oil in it. And it's delicious. My mother could not.
She wouldn't even know the difference, right? So she's thinking she's doing the same thing, but she's doing something different.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the whole thing about, the holidays, it's so difficult. Here we are fixing to go into the holiday season, and, I love my family so much. And I haven't been to a family function in 2 years because of my choices. And I talked to my aunt and my mother a couple of days ago, and I told them I would consider coming if I knew there would be a section that was completely vegan, where I wouldn't have to cross the line to go into the animals being eating. And I think they're going to try to figure that out for me.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'll let you know how that goes. If I can have a section where I know that if they want to come talk to me and visit with me, they'll come to this side of the center and it'll be all vegan, and the other side of the center it won't be vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, we used to, I come from the technology world, right? So we used to joke that there are some people who will keep using the rotary phone until they cannot replace it anymore with another rotary phone. Then they're stuck with a touchtone phone or whatever it is, whatever the new one is, right? So some people are like that. That's okay.
They can't use a computer.
Yeah.
They can't use a computer. Yeah. Yeah.
But when there is no option, they will change, right? You just, your mom is going to be getting vegan spam very soon.
I can't help but gag just a little bit when I hear that vegan spam. Okay.
Well, they make vegan bacon, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. How about another question from Facebook? This is very similar to the last question, actually. There is a thought that veganism is for Western people, and this is from someone in India. There's a thought that veganism is for Western people, more educated and higher class people. I run a vegan restaurant in India, and I've heard people tell me that it's for people from Western countries. I try my best to tell them that that's not true, but it's kind of how people see it here. Can you please suggest how to get through to the local crowd? The documentaries should be available in local languages too.
Yeah, I see it as us coming home to who we are. It's actually us coming home to our indigenous roots. So it's literally going back to being like my granddaughter's tribe again. It was a vegan tribe, literally. And I go to the villages of India. They're all vegans. They're cooking vegan food. So and they're milking cows and they're cooking vegan food. So what do you do with the milk? Well, we sell it. So we get money out of it. It's for the rich people to go and eat. So this is why it is actually coming home to who we are, and it is much more of the West saying to India, you were right. We are going to go back to you, to what you were doing. Okay, so or not just India. I mean, to the indigenous people, you are right. You are right. We are going back to the way you are, because that's how you come back into alignment with nature. That's what the vegan movement is. But not throwing away all of our technology and development. You're saying we're going to use that technology for the good of all life, right? So we have built these tools for a purpose, to connect us around the whole world, so that we don't see each other as a small tribe anymore. We see ourselves as a global tribe that's helping all life, right? And we even consider the wildlife as part of our tribe now. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the greatness of what has happened, I mean, because we spread from Africa, okay, 50,000 years ago. We spread from Africa throughout the whole world. And we created our own little tribes everywhere and did our own thing. And then we started agriculture 10,000 years ago. And in the process, we kept the temperature constant for 10,000 years. And then we built all the technologies to understand what we did. And now we're coming together again as a community around the whole world. It's not about returning back to Africa, but wherever we are part of the original tribe.
The part I struggle with, and I think I talked to you about this, Sailesh, not too long ago, is, my brother is so smart, but, and his son believes in climate change, but my brother, he thinks that climate change is a hoax. And there's so many people out there in the world that really think that what's happening on our planet is generated by these rich people, this money that's trying to convince everybody that climate change is real, when really it's just a way for people to get rich. And I mean, it's just like, my brother believes this wholeheartedly, and I'm just like, he's a smart person. How can we? I mean, how can we address those people?
Well, you need to get to them through, say, biodiversity loss. Look at the wild animals; they're dying. Do you see a big stash of bears somewhere? Or they're, I mean, right? They're all dying. So maybe, to get to people like that, you go through other means. But climate change, to me, is being used by some people to try and make money. So in that sense, he's right. Is being used, even though climate change is happening, but it is being used by some people to just focus on fossil fuels only. Don't look at veganism, don't look at animals, right? And what are they trying to do? They're trying to sell their products, whatever their products are. They're trying to sell their, CO2 sequestration machines, which will cost like $1 billion a machine, right? Things like that. They're trying to sell that so that they can make money off of it. Instead of saying, how do we come together as humanity and address all of our problems together, which is what climate change is forcing us to do. It's about healing the earth as opposed to patching up the symptoms. See, Western medicine has always been like that, right? It's been about patching up the symptoms. And then people have woken up and said, hey, you can actually heal yourself with a whole food plant-based diet. And so change what you eat and you heal yourself. So this is about holistic return to who we really are. And this is why your brother is, I mean, in a way, he's right. Some people are using it for that purpose. But also climate change is happening. So he needs to see that too. But
Yeah,
maybe you can
God.
get to him by saying, look at wild animals, they're dying. Amazon is being burnt, right? There's no question the Amazon is being burnt. You can look at satellite pictures and see that. So, and so that's why the change has to happen.
And there's no question that the way that we are living for the most part is not in harmony with nature and with our relationship with nature that's going to foster health for the planet and those of us who happen to live here. So, that kind of, to me, it goes back to that question of, so what's wrong with, regardless, what's wrong with taking a look at how we can live more harmoniously with nature and in a way that is more loving and compassionate with the earth that sustains us? I don't see why that comes into question so hard. Okay, so back to a question here, and I think that's just, well, there's two more questions, and then there's a lot of suggestions for you, Sailesh. I'll just hand over a lot of suggestions for more work and more work and more work. But that's, you're bringing together a lot of people who are getting behind the movement of Vegan World 2026, and how we can make this happen. So perhaps it's for the larger community.
Yes,
Let me go to the question first. We might need to tackle this from a supply side as well in India, right? With India being the largest exporter of bovine meat.
Yeah, it's in the current system, that's the source of revenue for India, foreign exchange for India, because that's the system we have built. We have built a system in which India is still being colonized, still being used. It's just that we pretended to give India independence. But through the monetary system, it is still being extracted. Things are being extracted from India. And right now it is meat that's being extracted for the West.
Can y'all see Celie back there?
Yes.
Can you see Celie?
Yeah.
She's back there. Celie, you're on camera, girl. Look at her. Celie bug. The other day, I've got to tell you this. I had an FFA student come in here the other day. We were shearing our sheep, Leo, because his hair is so thick and it's so hot. And she came into the house to get her $15 for doing that. And she saw Celie and she went, "You had a turkey in the house?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, doesn't everybody?" No, ma'am. I said, "Well, gosh, you just don't know what you're missing." I said, "Don't tell me you eat turkeys." She was like, yes, ma'am." I said, "Well, I hope your meeting with Celie changes that." Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm sorry. I saw Celie in the camera and I was like, I must introduce you.
Yeah, no, I've seen pictures of her, obviously.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Lovely story, Renee. Someone says on the chat here. I agree. Okay. Another question. Hawaii Island, Big Island Dairy was shut down by county health department. It is now for sale. We need to veganize this facility. Any ideas? I guess maybe that's something going out to the larger community.
No, it's going out to
Yeah.
Renee.
Yeah.
This is rap.
Yeah. I've been asked this question already because I know about that
Oh,
facility.
okay.
And, you know, the only way that we can veganize this facility is for somebody there to want to do it. I mean, somebody has to want to do this. It would cost millions of dollars to revamp that entire facility. And I don't know, I mean, it's being shut down and it's for sale. Who wants to buy that and change it? If somebody wants to buy that and change it, then they need to let me know, and we will do everything that we can to figure it out in our RAP coalition in our advisory team. That's what we've got. I mean, we've got a growing coalition and advisory team that's really helping us figure out how to solve these kind of problems, but they need to come to us. If I go to everybody that needs to change, I won't take care of the people that want to change.
Right.
You see,
I love that.
it's much the way in like in the recovery movement in Alcoholics Anonymous or any other movement like that. You can't go to an alcoholic and say, stop drinking right now, it's killing you. You got to stop today. They're going to laugh at you. But once they want to change, they come to you and say, how do I stop? And that's kind of like how RAP works. Once they want to stop and they come to us, then we can help them. That's it.
Beautiful. I love that. All right, I'm going to read these suggestions.
Yeah.
Dr. Rao, can you please write a white paper countering the Savory Institute, explaining what is fundamentally wrong with them and the correct solution? It is important because they are misleading many people. So I know from previous interviews, you've agreed to a couple of white papers already, so you might want to add this one to the list. And stop me if you want to say anything about these.
No. I mean, there are papers already available, so I can point to resources that are already available, countering Savory's work. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and then the next one is, why don't you get this online summit and the upcoming conference covered in at least Plant-Based News, Live Kindly, One Green Planet, Vegan First, etc., which are the vegan news websites. Any issues or challenges doing it? Any possibility of TV media coverage?
Deborah, your thoughts on that? I mean, should we do a press release and then give it to Plant-Based News?
Maybe that's a question for Jane. She'll be on again on Friday, and I know she's helping you with one of the white papers. It's not my area of expertise, but yes, I would think, why not, right? To get more as Renee talks about, for the people who already are ready to change and who are out there, bringing back to Will Tuttle, being the trees that are bearing the fruit, that are depositing the seeds of change for people. And the more that we can give, just like with the documentaries and the white papers and the information, and these interviews have been fabulous. And I can't wait for the conference. I didn't go last year. I am going to go this year, and I can't wait. I'm very excited for it. This is wonderful information, and the people, Sailesh, that you are bringing together to cover all of these different pieces of the puzzle, and to bring this information together into one container I think it's a brilliant resource for people. And, to bring people's questions together and their passion and everything else, to invite people to be a part of the solution and to brainstorm and make a difference. And, it's a beautiful thing. So I think it would be a wonderful thing, write a press release or, do something that
Right.
makes it easy for these channels to distribute the information and to invite more people in who are ready to be a part of the solution. That's beautiful.
Right. I'll talk to Jane about that.
Awesome. Okay. And there's another one, your study on B12, Gandhi, consuming milk and meat is very informative and eye-opening. Can you please write a white paper on it? So we got that white paper thing going through this this
Right.
conference. And it says, I think you should come up with many summary white papers and maybe even audio and video clippings based on these online summits and the upcoming conference. So just more ways to share the information.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else has just come in. Okay. It says, Dr. Rao, I don't mean to make you tired, but maybe you need to have this summit every 2 or 1 quarters to speed up the transition to a vegan world 2026. Yes. So
That's not a bad idea.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, that's in your court, Deborah, if you want to do that.
Okay, I'll consider that because, perhaps if there is, you can always rerun the current summit. And just so people know, typically online summits are produced such that you have, 48 hours to watch an interview and then it goes away. And if you want to have access to it for life, you have to pay. This is not the case here. And even the registrations and the signups for the summit are to enable us to remind you about what's coming and point you to the replays and that kind of stuff. So this isn't a summit that says, okay, this information is going away and you're going to have to pay for it and you have to sign up and da. This is available freely on the website. It's available on the Facebook group, and this web-based information is there to share and to share widely, broadly, freely. And there's no limits on that. There's no limits. They're not going to go away. You're not going to be asked to buy anything. Just take the information and share it. And so it's there. And perhaps after the summit and after the next documentary is released and Renee's documentary gets underway, perhaps we'll look at when does it make sense to do another one where we can bring people back together and update. Okay, here's what's happening now, and here's the next steps. So it might make sense to do it periodically.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've seen that some of the videos have been watched over 1,000 times. So it is spreading. People are watching it.
Yes,
that's awesome. I didn't realize I could go back and watch them all. So that's good to know.
Yeah, they're all on our website and they're all on Facebook on the Climate Healers Facebook page.
That's good to know that I can just go back and watch them. I've been wanting to tune in. I just have not been able to.
Right.
So I really want to do that. I'm thankful that that's the case.
Yeah. If you go to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Deborah.
If you go to climatehealers.org/summit, they're all there.
Wow.
And they're just being posted every day, just added to the bottom of that page. They're also on the Facebook group. So if you want to have them in a place where you can share them easily, if you're on Facebook, you can share them from the Climate Healers Facebook page. And they're also on Sailesh's YouTube channel. So, whatever is the easiest way for you to access and share, it's in right now at least 3 different places, and a number of people are sharing them to other groups as well. So,
and Sailesh's YouTube channel is it Climate Healers or your name?
I think it's under Sailesh Rao.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look at that.
Okay, So, and then there was another comment saying, can Renee be patched in via live stream to the summit in October since she can't be there in person? Plant that.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to be.
It'll be live streamed on Facebook for sure. So,
But I mean, I don't. I'm certainly. I certainly could be willing to do that if I can't come. So.
yeah. But we'd love to see you.
I'd love to be there. I've been on they did that in the UK. They had a big summit, the Vegan Society did. And I was on a summit on Zoom or Skype or something in the UK. And, Jay was there, the guy Jay with 73 cows and other folks. It was quite impressive what they put together. And I joined them on a panel via live stream.
That's wonderful.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, technology is a beautiful thing, the way that it really, erases a lot of limitations. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just reading over here. There's someone here who's saying that she will not be at the summit, but she will be at the Friday night event in Mesa, Arizona. So the Zen Nights, and I think that's the kickoff to your summit, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, to the in-person conference.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to say anything more about the summit then, or the conference while we're on it, Sailesh?
Yeah. So the conference will be where we are going to be brainstorming all these questions, and because for a vegan world, you need to have vegan constitution, vegan institutions, vegan infrastructure, and a vegan currency that sort of reflects our values. Everything should reflect our values of compassion and equality and kindness, and So, and what we did last year was come up with the questions for the vegan institutions and the vegan infrastructure. And we formed study groups around some of those questions. There are still another, 200 questions left out there that we haven't even started addressing. And so what we want to do in this conference this year is to, renew those study groups, activate them again, and then look at the Constitution. So this is what we did with the Codes for a Healthy Earth and Codes for a Healthy Earth, that Shelley's work, Shelley and Jan Golding contributions. And so I want to propose that we adopt that as the basis of our Constitution for a vegan world. And then we can work out the details around that, but that will be the foundation. It's like a declaration, so to speak, for how we are going to organize ourselves. And then we have to work on the currency. So my proposal is to create this currency that we can start playing right now. It will be just like a game for us right now, but it will change our behavior. So as more and more people play that game, even though we are still in the old system, we change the old system, and we slowly transform that. It becomes the new one. So that game that we are playing in parallel, that's just the new game. Okay, and the new game is about you get rewarded for doing compassionate acts in the game. So it's about promoting compassion. It's about promoting all those 7 core shifts. So that's what we're going to be discussing, and it's a continuation of what we started last year. So
and that work is powerful. Let me tell you, I was to be part of that last year. It's a powerful process. Going around and answering all those questions and putting them on the wall, and then going up and having the discussion, on the stage with your group. It was so powerful, and then to have been able to go to Costa Rica, with Jane and you and others, when we sat for hours and hammered out that declaration that we did,
Right. Yeah.
and then that's where Prevent Year Zero started, Jane's new documentary, which in, in my mind is one of the most compelling documentaries right now because it's short, it's fast, the information
Right.
is so rapidly induced in such a way where it really, really makes you think. Uh, uh, I think it's brilliant. And I just love the whole way that you are bringing us together. Even though I can't be there, the fact that I'm here with you now is so, I'm so grateful. And I know that whatever happens at the summit, just because I know I've been there, I know Sailesh's heart, his wife Janie, I know their mission. I believe with all my heart the next evolution of Vegan World 2026 is going to be magical. It's going to happen whether whoever's there, and it doesn't matter, whoever shows up there is going to get the rich experience of being in that room. I've never seen or been a part of anything like it, so you don't want to
Thank you
miss
so
that.
much, Renee. Thank you so much, Renee.
So true. I wish I could be there. I'd be there in a heartbeat. I don't see how you could live stream that. Like,
Right.
I don't see how you could live stream somebody like being on a panel there, because it's everybody there is included, isn't in this. No one person is singled out.
Right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the Countdown to Year Zero is going to be screened at the Chelsea Film Festival. And it's sold out on October 20th.
Wow.
It's sold out. And they're screening 73 cows and Countdown to Year Zero together. And then we are going to have a moderated panel with Jean Bauer moderating the panel. And Sierra Club is sponsoring it. So Sierra Club is sending a representative. Greenpeace is sending a representative. So we are going to have a really serious discussion.
That's so super amazing. So maybe the closer we get, I'll just be able to say, I'm just gonna hop on a plane and go. We'll see.
Right. Yeah. It's a weekend. Come along.
Where is that going to be, Sailesh?
It's a weekend.
Countdown to Year Zero is in New York City.
Oh,
So that screening is in New York City at the Chelsea Film Festival.
excellent. Excellent. Okay.
But
So
it's also available on Amazon Prime.
yeah, I just posted the links to it in both the Zoom chat and in the Facebook group
Okay.
with the Countdown to Year Zero. Okay. Okay, Sailesh, there is one more question. Can you see in the Q&A box there at the very bottom, there's a question that came in about, I'll give you the option if you want to answer it here, or if we want to close for the day and you want to answer it in writing or whatever. But it says, can you throw some light on the
Vegan Android.
vegan
Okay.
Android?
Yeah, it basically it was about collecting, creating our own interface on our phone that would allow us to get to a vegan world faster. So it's like a vegan operating system for our phone. So collecting all the things that we need to do for codes for a healthy earth, for instance, is saying, we need to clean up the ocean, we need to purify the water. So all those things require us to know how we can interact in the local area that we are in. So we need to create apps for all those things. So it's about talking about that and figuring out what we need to do, for creating a vegan app for our phone. Not an app, an operating system for our phone. Because our phones are now designed to make us consume more,
Right.
Right. That's so true. Okay.
Yeah, I can give public access to the Google Doc for viewing. I think I can. I don't know. I have to look at what I did there.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We're just sharing, and thank you, Amira, for sharing links on the chat, and I'm sharing them with Facebook also, and along with the link for Sailesh's YouTube channel.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you both so much for this discussion and this interview and the answering all of the questions. And thank you to everyone who has been on the Zoom chat and in Facebook. And for those who are listening to the replay, it's also thank you so much for your questions and for your passion and your being a part of the solution, for being a part of the summit and being a part of the solution. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Renee, for your contribution. It's been amazing
Thank
talking
you
to you
so
as
much.
always.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege to be a part of it.
And it's really very heartwarming. Your stories are heartwarming, I have to admit, teary, and I love what you're doing to help. I mean, because this is what you're doing is huge to be a part of the solution. Speaking of being a part of the solution, you know, rather than coming at it and wanting to fight it, it's, you know, like I said, creating solutions and being available to help the people who are ready to change. It's a beautiful thing. So thank
Now,
you.
y'all follow Rancher Advocacy Program on our social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and we're evolving the stories of our ranchers in transition, you know, there. So you'll be able to follow their stories too.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So we'll be back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. U.S. Pacific time. Tomorrow is with on radical collective intelligence. Is that right, Sailesh?
Right.
Anything you want to say about that?
It's on collective intelligence with Jamin Shively. It's about deploying our technologies for us to help make decisions as a community in a much more intelligent way than we are doing today. Because today we just vote once every 4 years and then tell that person, you go make all the decisions for me, right? And the person doesn't know half the things he's making decisions on. They have no clue. So we have a system that's really antiquated. There are much better ways to organize ourselves as a species, and this is what Jamin and I are going to be talking about tomorrow. Radical collective intelligence is a way to use software to help us make decisions better.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, I look forward to that one as well. And as soon as the replay is, excuse me, the replay for this interview today will be available on the Climate Healers Facebook page as soon as we disconnect here. When it's up on the Climate Healers website, we'll send out an email with the links to there and to the YouTube channel. And meanwhile, thank you all again. Yes, and follow Rancher Advocacy Program on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, so we'll send out an email as soon as the replay is available on the website and the YouTube channel. All right, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Peace.